Coming up, a former police officer's long-running fight with the city of Fargo has officially come to an end. Suing over a service dog, how the cosmetics retailer Ulta has reached a settlement with a Fargo customer. And bad news for donut lovers, why Sandy's Donuts is temporarily closing. Hello and welcome to the Nightly Review. I'm Tom Tucker. We begin with a look at tonight's headlines, then a closer look, with comments tonight from Senators John Hoeven and Amy Klobuchar, talking about challenges impacting the ag industry, including the war in Ukraine and bird flu. And in tonight's one-on-one conversation, Minnesota gubernatorial candidate Dr. Scott Jensen joins me to talk about his call to eliminate personal income tax in the state. But first, tonight, Midco has announced widespread outages of their service in the Fargo-Moorhead area. The phone and internet provider reported outages taking place as early as 10 o'clock this morning, with issues spreading as far as Bemidji, Fairmont, International Falls, and Waseca. Midco says they have identified the problem and hope to restore connective services as soon as possible. A former Fargo police officer is being allowed to resign retroactively in a deal with the city. The city commission voted to accept Justin Nachatillo's resignation. The 19-year veteran of the department recently appealed his termination, which he believed was politically motivated. Nachatillo was fired in December after an internal review concluded he mishandled 2 cases. The Fargo School Board is presenting its preliminary budget plan for the upcoming school year. We're told the budget includes the same tax rate, but projects an increase in property tax revenue of about 7.5%. The budget accounts for large increases in utility costs. Board members will be talking about the budget at tonight's meeting. The Cass County Sheriff's Office has identified the man who died in a car fire which happened on I-94 near Tower City over the weekend. Deputies say 36-year-old Matthew Knight was pulled from the burning vehicle around 9 o'clock Sunday morning near mile marker 313. Knight was from Greenville, Ohio. An autopsy will be performed on his body, and the incident is under investigation. The cosmetics retailer Ulta has reached a settlement with a customer who sued the company after she was told she couldn't bring her service dog into the Ulta store in Fargo. Under the settlement, Ulta has agreed to adopt a nationwide service animal non-discrimination policy for all of its stores, provide training for employees on the new policy, post appropriate signage, and pay the woman $1,000 in damages. A Moorhead Air Force veteran says he's hosting charity concerts to support relief efforts for the war in Ukraine. We're told the Mark J. Lindquist Big Band Charity Benefit Concert Series will take place July 8th in Fargo. The venue is not yet set for the event. Lindquist says he's working with a shipping company to get up to 200 tons of donated medical supplies from Minneapolis to Ukraine. Well, Fargo City Commissioner Tony Gehrig's second and final term on the commission officially came to an end Monday night.
I first want to just say thank you to the people of Fargo for letting me do this job for 7 years. For those people who support me, thank you for that. And for those who didn't support me, I hope at least I was able to communicate why I vote the way I vote and create videos and go and talk in public and tell you why I do the things that I do.
Gehrig, who did not seek re-election this year, worked on several initiatives while serving on the commission, including addition of Fire Station Number 8 in South Fargo. Gehrig will be replaced by Denise Kolpak, who is being sworn in today. Commissioner Dave Pepcorn will also be sworn in again after winning re-election on June 14th. North Dakota Attorney General Drew Wrigley has certified a pair of trigger laws that make abortion illegal in the state. He hand-delivered a letter to the North Dakota Legislative Council this morning, making the decision official. The laws are set to take effect July 28th. The certification comes just days after the United States Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. The ruling returns to individual states the authority to regulate and prohibit abortion. Organizers for the planned Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library near Medora say land has been obtained for the project. The lot, totaling more than 90 acres of U.S. Forest Service land, is near the Medora Musical's Burning Hill Amphitheater. Congress originally approved the land sale in 2020, but the deal went through a lengthy approval process. President Roosevelt ranched and hunted in the Medora Badlands back in the 1880s. And Sandy's Donuts is closing, but only so owners can update their kitchens. All 3 Sandy's locations have shut their doors temporarily while making improvements over the 4th of July holiday, which we're told is one of the slowest times of the year for the donut business. We're told all Sandy's locations plan to reopen July 7th with all 75 varieties of donuts available. In a closer look tonight, U.S. Senator John Hoeven is talking about the impact the war in Ukraine is having on American companies with ties to agricultural operations in Ukraine.
You know, they're trying to figure out what they do with their farmers over there. And I mean, they're planting a crop there now, but as you know, there's a blockade. They can't get that out. That makes huge issues, whether it's wheat or corn or these other products. So we've got to find ways to try to help them to move that product out. They've got to sell last year's product, let alone, you know, they're planting now this year's.
Hoeven spoke in Fargo today at the Midwest Agricultural Summit put on by the Fargo-Moorhead West Fargo Chamber of Commerce. Hoeven praised the productivity of American farmers in their efforts to make up for anticipated food shortages around the world as a result of the war in Ukraine. Also speaking at the summit was Senator Amy Klobuchar, who provided perspective on the bird flu outbreak impacting poultry operations in her home state of Minnesota.
We, going to a few years back, already had one experience with this, which was actually much worse. That was in 2015, hitting all the upper Midwest, and we lost back then in Minnesota 9 million birds, just to give you a sense of it. So 3 million is bad, but 9 million was worse.
Klobuchar says the 3 million birds lost this year in the state were in 28 different counties. She says lessons learned during the more severe avian flu outbreak in 2015 were useful in helping the Department of Agriculture respond more effectively to this year's outbreak. Well, if you enjoy the Nightly Review as your primary source for news and information for all that is happening in the FM Metro, please take a moment to subscribe and hit the bell button below to make sure you catch every episode. Time now to see what's happening weather-wise. Meteorologist Justin Storm is in the Skywatch Weather Center with a look at the forecast.
Thanks, Tom. As we head through the rest of this evening into tonight, we'll see partly cloudy skies going mostly clear with temperatures dropping into the mid-50s, and breezy conditions from this afternoon will lighten up out of the southeast around 5 to 15. The wind does return on Wednesday out of the southeast 15 to 30. Some morning showers are likely into the early afternoon across the area, and then temperatures will reach into the mid-80s with a slight chance for some storms Wednesday late afternoon to Wednesday night. For your Thursday, sunshine returns. An isolated shower can't be ruled out with highs in the mid-80s and a northwest wind around 10 to 25.
You can spark hope for others. Now through June 30th, lighten the load of neighbors in crisis with a gift of $10 or more to the Lend a Hand Up Summer Boost campaign. All gifts will be distributed to boost help for local families, and the first 100 donors will receive a gift card to Star Fireworks. Learn more and give to the Summer Boost at lendahandup.org.
Lend a hand up.
Lend a Hand Up is community powered and guided by Dakota Medical Foundation.
Welcome back to the Nightly Review. My guest for tonight's one-on-one conversation is Minnesota Republican gubernatorial candidate Dr. Scott Jensen. A recent poll commissioned by MinnPost shows incumbent Governor Tim Walz currently holding a slight edge in the race for the governor's seat, with 42% of voters polled indicating they would vote for Walz, while 40% indicating they favor Jensen. One of Jensen's proposals making headlines right now is his call to eliminate the state personal income tax. I first asked him how and why that's a good thing for the state of Minnesota.
I think that Minnesota political leadership has been lacking in its unwillingness to lead on the big topics. For instance, in the 1980s, a Democratic governor named Rudy Perpich led on big, bold discussions regarding open enrollment for high school students, post-secondary enrollment options. Both of these things became a reality, and arguably, there's been no big ideas touching education since. In the same vein, I think we oftentimes nibble on the edges down at the legislature in regards to taxation. But the fact is, Minnesotans are literally in the top 5 or maybe 10%, but most of the time, top 5 states tax-wise. I don't care if you're talking about estate taxes, corporate taxes, sales taxes, personal income taxes, property taxes. It doesn't stop. And I think Minnesotans are literally being trampled by this. And we now have a $10 to $12 billion overpayment. This overpayment is the result of taxpayers paying more in than arguably they should have. So this is a perfect opportunity for us to return those dollars to the taxpayers through an elimination or phasing out of the personal income tax. We need to have this discussion. We need to consider what would Minnesota look like if we were the true sizzling economic hub of the Midwest. We would see a lot more businesses come here instead of leaving. We can't afford to be losing companies like Medtronics and other companies as well. We need to draw companies in. Minnesota would be pretty bleak if we didn't have Articat and Polaris and JBS and CFS and Best Buy and Target and 3M, Mayo Clinic. We need these companies staying here. And the best way to do that is to have Minnesota revamp the way we spend money, because we're out of control there. We've gone from 30 billion to 52 billion in a little more than a decade, which is a 75% increase. And we need to ask ourselves, what would we look like without a personal income tax?
Of course, the big story right now is the U.S. Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe versus Wade. And with that, Governor Walz and Attorney General Ellison have both vowed to protect abortion rights in the state of Minnesota. What's your thought, your reaction to all of that?
Well, let's start at the beginning. Let's ask ourselves, what did Justice Alito say in his opinion when they overruled Roe v. Wade? He said something to this effect. He said the 1973 ruling was egregious in its overreach. Basically, the 1973 Supreme Court looked at this issue and found evidence somehow that the Constitution ensures that all people have access to abortion. The present court looked at the Constitution, paying particular attention to the 14th Amendment and due process, and found no evidence of that. This court said, this is not guaranteed in the Constitution. This is not a federal court matter. This needs to be returned to the states. What overturning Roe v. Wade did was it did not ban abortion. It simply said, this is a matter for the states. And if people remember their history, this was critically important for the 13 colonies to come together and ratify the Constitution. This was very important that the powers of the federal government be particularly identified. And if they weren't, then the power resided with the states.
And I'd like to thank Minnesota Republican gubernatorial candidate Dr. Scott Jensen for joining me for tonight's one-on-one conversation. Dr. Jensen is now being investigated for a 5th time by the Minnesota Board of Medical Malpractice, and I asked him about that as well. You can hear his thoughts on that and more tomorrow night in part 2 of my conversation with Dr. Jensen. Now, to provide equal time, I've also offered an interview opportunity to Governor Walz to provide an update on his campaign. I anticipate hearing from Governor Walz very soon. Well, that will do it for this Tuesday night, June 28th, 2022. I'm Tom Tucker. Thanks for watching the Nightly Review.